He was supposed to grow old, to walk his daughter down the aisle, to smile on stage one last time. But instead, Malcolm Jamal Warner was buried in silence. And now that silence has been shattered. It started with a trembling voice, a grieving mother, and a USB drive that should have never seen the light of day. Pamela Warner stood before the world, broken but unafraid, holding the final proof that would change everything. Her eyes swollen from years of crying, her hands shaking with truth. And her voice? That voice just got a man arrested. Because today, Bill Cosby is in handcuffs. And Malcolm's death is no longer being called an accident.
And this is huge, because legally, the moment a case shifts from accident to homicide, the entire justice system recalibrates. It means someone is now criminally responsible. So let me ask you, do you think Pamela's evidence is enough to secure a conviction, or will Cosby's legal empire try to bury this too?
The world watched Pamela's tear-stained confession. They heard her say the words no mother should ever have to say. He didn't drown. He was drowned by power, by silence, by the same machine that protected monsters and buried the brave. The documents were real. The videos were real. And the pain? That was the most real thing of all. A secret folder. A final video. A chilling memo. Let the water wash it away. They thought they could erase him, but they didn't count on a mother's fire. And now, the system that tried to silence Malcolm is collapsing. This isn't just a scandal. It's a heartbreak, a war cry, a reckoning. Bill Cosby has been arrested. But the real story is just beginning. Because Malcolm didn't leave behind a goodbye. He left behind a mission. And now his truth is screaming through every screen. It was the moment the world never saw coming. A sea of flashing lights outside the Los Angeles.
Can we just pause here? Think about this. Bill Cosby, the man once called America's dad, now walking into federal court in handcuffs. That's not just a fall from grace. That's a collapse of an entire legacy. How many of you thought this day would never come?
Angeles federal courthouse. Reporters pushing past barricades. Fans crying in the street. A black SUV pulling up slow. And then the door opens. Bill Cosby. Silent, stone-faced, flanked by federal agents. This wasn't a movie scene. This wasn't a dream. It was real. And it was happening. For years, rumors swirled. Whispers. Conspiracy threads. But nobody ever thought it would come to this. Not until Pamela Warner stood up and said, "He killed my son." The pain in her voice wasn't performative. It wasn't scripted. It was raw. It was heavy. And it carried every ounce of a mother's grief, weaponized by the truth. She wasn't seeking revenge. She was seeking justice. Not just for Malcolm, but for every voice that had ever been silenced behind Hollywood smiles and carefully signed NDAs. And now, the silence had broken. The world remembered Malcolm Jamal Warner as the heart of a generation. The boy who grew up on screen. The soul behind Theo Huxtable. A man whose laughter once echoed through millions of homes. But on July 20th, 2025, that laughter went still. The official report said he drowned. Peaceful vacation in Costa Rica. Evening walk on the beach. No signs of foul play. No witnesses. Case closed. Or so they thought. But mothers don't forget. Not the tone in their child's last phone call.
This right here is the turning point. Because in legal terms, a USB like this isn't just a clue, it's potential prima facie evidence. That means it can stand on its own in court. But here's the real kicker. Will the DOJ actually pursue it, or will it mysteriously vanish like so many Hollywood scandals before?
Not the unease in his voice. Not the cryptic words he left behind. "If something happens to me, Mom, tell the world I wasn't lying." Pamela Warner never moved on. Because she couldn't. Because something about the story never sat right. And then, she found the USB, hidden in the lining of Malcolm's old winter coat. Still sealed. Still untouched. On the envelope, 5 chilling words. "In case something happens to me." Her hands trembled as she plugged it in. Her breath caught as the files opened. And her world collapsed. Inside the drive was a digital archive of terror. confidential memos, call logs, secret recordings, wire transfers, NDAs signed by powerful names, and one folder buried deep within the archive called simply Shadow Network. And in every document, every transcript, every thread, one name kept surfacing, circled, highlighted, repeated: Bill Cosby. It didn't make sense at first. Not to Pamela. Not to the public. Why would a once beloved TV icon be linked to her son's death? But then, the video. Malcolm's voice. Not from a show. Not an interview. This was different. He was alone. Eyes tired. Face gaunt. Voice low. If you're seeing this, then I didn't make it. Or someone made sure I wouldn't. He spoke about a system. A silent machine. A network built not just to cover up abuse, but to erase those who knew too much. And then he said it. They don't just silence you. They erase you. They rewrite your story. Make it so no one even asks what really happened. Pamela fell to her knees. She knew in that moment her son hadn't died by accident. He had been eliminated. And she was holding the proof. She took it straight to the Department of Justice. The videos. The files. The recordings. Everything. She waited for weeks. Nothing. Then one night, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. Check the news. Breaking news banner. All major outlets. DOJ confirms federal investigation into Malcolm Jamal Warner's death. But the headline that broke the internet? Bill Cosby under official investigation in connection to Warner case. Within 48 hours, a federal warrant was issued. Within 72,
and movements matter. Remember, in so many high-profile cases, it's public pressure that forces prosecutors' hands. Would Cosby even be in custody right now without Pamela pushing, and the internet amplifying her fight? Drop your thoughts. Justice system at work, or justice system cornered?
Bill Cosby was in custody. Pamela watched the coverage from her living room. No celebration. No victory speech. Just tears. Years of silence. Finally heard. Her son, finally seen. Outside the courthouse, supporters gathered. Candles. Posters. Murals. One read. He didn't drown. He was drowned. The footage from the USB had begun to leak. Clips from Malcolm's final message were spreading online. Whistleblowers came forward. Former studio staff. Legal aides. Even a late-night producer. One voice message sent chills through the nation. We were told not to touch his footage. We were told to let it disappear. But he knew. He had proof. And he was getting ready to go public. And now, Pamela Warner wasn't just a grieving mother. She was the face of a movement. Every headline carried her name. Every interview quoted her words. Every voice echoed her truth. He didn't just die. He was erased. And I will not stop until the world knows who did it. And the world listened. Because the machine that once silenced victims was now under fire. And at the center of it, the man once called America's dad, now being called something far darker. Cosby's legal team scrambled. PR firms ghosted reporters. Executives went silent. Social media scrubbed. But it was too late. The files were out. The truth was public. And the system that once protected predators had just been exposed by a mother's love. They thought they could kill the message by killing the messenger. But Pamela didn't just keep the message alive. She lit the match that burned their whole house of lies down. And now, Bill Cosby is under arrest. And Malcolm's story is just beginning to unfold. They thought it was over. That Pamela Warner would disappear. That the noise would die down. That this would just be another viral moment, gone in a week. But this wasn't just noise. It was a mother's scream echoing through a broken world. And behind that scream was evidence so explosive, it could collapse empires. The arrest of Bill Cosby sent shockwaves through every corner of Hollywood. But it was just the beginning. Because when the DOJ unsealed the first vault of evidence from what's now called the Warner Archive, the world finally saw the monster behind the mask. And no one was ready. It started with a memo, dated June 18, 2025, 2 days before Malcolm's death. Marked confidential. Internal use only. Subject line: Crisis containment. Warner's situation escalating. Inside, executives laid out step-by-step strategies to discredit Malcolm before he could speak publicly. One chilling sentence read, "If containment fails, redirect through tragedy."
That single knock at the door chills. Because in every true crime story, there's that one moment where you know the victim saw it coming. And here's the hardest part. The law can punish the crime, but it can never rewind that moment of fear.
The ocean remains a viable optic. It wasn't metaphor. It was murder, dressed up in media language. And the memo wasn't alone. There were audio files, dozens of them. Phone calls, meeting recordings, voice notes Malcolm captured while digging. In one call, a network executive says, "He's not a kid anymore. He's smart. He's tracking patterns. If he releases what he has, we're all F*** edition." Another voice replies, "Then let's make sure he doesn't." And then there was Fragment 7, the video that broke Pamela. A hidden camera feed. Shaky, dimly lit, but unmistakable. Malcolm, in his home office, scrolling through documents, visibly anxious. He looks into the webcam, takes a deep breath. "I shouldn't be recording this. But if I don't, no one will believe it. Not even my mom." He picks up a voice recorder. He whispers, "They called me tonight. They told me I'm risking everything. But what am I supposed to do? Stay quiet? Let them win." Then, a knock at the door. Malcolm flinches, freezes, turns off the camera. The video cuts. Pamela said she never saw him again after that night. Social media exploded. Not just with anger, but with grief. Grief that we never really knew the pain Malcolm was carrying. That behind every red carpet smile was a man being hunted. The hashtag Justice for Malcolm hit 10 million uses in 48 hours. Protests erupted in LA, New York, Atlanta, and Toronto. Graffiti on Sunset Boulevard. He didn't drown. He was silenced. Murals appeared overnight, Malcolm's face beside the words. They erased him. We remember. Even celebrities who had once stayed silent were now speaking out. A well-known sitcom actor posted, "He told me something big was coming. I didn't listen. I should've." Another former castmate went live in tears saying, "He tried to warn us. He really did." Meanwhile, the DOJ continued digging. And what they found was darker than anyone imagined. A file labeled The Silence Machine, version 2.0, contained a 32-page manual on how to erase someone without touching them. Step-by-step guides. Leak of fake scandal. Plant mental health rumors. Use clickbait news to bury real stories. Delay FOIA requests. Pay off local police. Offer settlements to survivors. It wasn't just one person protecting Cosby. It was a machine. Fueled by money. Run by lawyers. And enforced by fear. And Malcolm? He'd hacked into it. Mapped it out. And was ready to bring it down. But someone got to him first. Then came the second leak. This one not from the DOJ, but from inside one of the networks mentioned in Malcolm's files. A hard drive. No name, no return address. Just a folder titled, Buried. Inside were emails, transcripts, and a risk assessment from Cosby's old PR firm. One document outlined a worst-case scenario. If Warner publishes, activate mitigation protocol. Monitor movements. If extraction fails, contingency in place. That word again. Contingency. A sanitized word for something deadly. Pamela read it 17 times, holding her son's sweatshirt, whispering, "They planned it. My God, they planned everything." In court, Cosby's legal team called the files doctored. They blamed hackers. They called it a smear campaign by a grieving mother. But then came the voice memo. The one Malcolm recorded, not knowing the mic was still on. In it, he's walking, breathing heavy, talking to himself. They said, "I have a choice. Keep quiet and live. Speak and, well, here we are." He laughs. "It's broken. I'm not scared anymore. I'm just tired. But I won't be their silence." Pamela released the clip with a single caption. "My son didn't drown. He was drowned by silence, by money, by monsters." And now, the country was listening. Senators called for a congressional review. A special counsel was appointed. Networks launched internal investigations. Federal prosecutors confirmed that Bill Cosby's arrest was just the beginning. But Pamela wasn't done. She released one final piece. The letter Malcolm left her. It read, "If you're reading this, it means I didn't make it. But that's okay, because I know you'll fight. And I know the truth will outlive me. I love you, Mom. Don't let them erase me." She carries that letter with her everywhere. Worn, folded, tear-stained, but powerful. Now, in a world where Cosby once ruled the screen, his mugshot is the most shared image online. He sits behind bars, facing a wave of charges. But more than that, facing the truth.
And that's what makes this courtroom scene historic. Not just because of the testimonies, but because silence itself was on trial. Every assistant, every executive saying, "We were told to forget." That's the culture unraveling in real tea.
Same truth he tried to bury with silence. Malcolm didn't live to see this day. But everything he left behind made it possible. Because in the end, he wasn't just an actor. He was a whistleblower, a truth teller, a son who saw the darkness and refused to close his eyes. And the mother who gave him life became the voice he never got to be. This isn't just a story. It's a revolution. It's the beginning of the end for the silence industry. And it's a reminder. You can kill the messenger, but not the message. The courtroom was silent. Not the kind of silence that brings peace, but the kind that presses down on your chest like a stone. The kind that screams without making a sound. Bill Cosby sat at the defense table, expression blank, shoulders stiff, surrounded by lawyers who no longer looked confident, just afraid. Across the room, Pamela Warner, head held high, clutching the folded letter her son left behind. This wasn't just a trial. It was a reckoning. And the world was watching. Cameras weren't allowed inside. But what happened in that courtroom didn't stay hidden for long. Witness after witness came forward. Former assistants, studio editors, retired executives, each one stepping forward finally. Each one echoing the same truth. We were told to stay silent. We were paid to forget. He knew too much. And they knew it. The final blow came from a man no one expected. A former bodyguard. Cosby's own. His voice shaking as he testified. "I was assigned to watch Malcolm. Not for his safety, but to track him. I didn't understand why at first. But the day he died, I got a call. One sentence. Stand down. It's handled." You could hear gasps across the courtroom. Even the judge looked frozen. Cosby didn't say a word. Not once. Because what could he say? Everything Malcolm had feared, everything he had documented, was now being spoken out loud. And no one could silence it anymore. Outside, crowds waited with candles and signs. Some wept. Some held up Malcolm's photo. Some just stood in silence, a silence that finally meant something. Across the internet, millions tuned in for updates. Hashtags trended again. Hashtag justice for Malcolm. Hashtag he didn't drown. Hashtag the machine is falling. But no one was ready for what came next. The second hard drive. Pamela hadn't shared it yet. She was saving it. Not for the courtroom. Not for the media. But for the people. This drive didn't just expose names. It exposed the system. It held surveillance footage, meeting transcripts, signed off-the-record deals between networks and law enforcement. Documents stamped, "Do not disclose, internal only." And at the center of it all, a full operational map of something called Echo Protocol. It was their final insurance. A digital kill switch, designed to wipe clean the reputation of any star accused, and silence anyone who spoke out permanently. Malcolm had pieced it together, bit by bit, file by file. And he'd hidden it, not for himself, but for her, his mother. And now she was ready to show the world. She uploaded it all. Every file, every name, every plan. No filters, no redactions, no fear. The internet didn't just explode, it imploded. News anchors froze on live air. Lawyers refused interviews. Executives resigned overnight. Entire networks went dark. One by one, the names began to fall. But the loudest fall was the one who started it all. 3 weeks after his arrest, Bill Cosby was officially charged with conspiracy, obstruction, and accessory to murder. The media tried to spin it. Some called it unprecedented. Some still said alleged. But the truth had already spoken in Malcolm's voice, in his files, and in the fire Pamela refused to let die. Pamela never looked for fame. She never wanted to be on camera. But she became a face the world would never forget. She stood before reporters once, just once. Holding Malcolm's photo close to her chest, she said. They tried to silence him, but all they did was give him a louder voice. And then she walked away. No applause. No headlines. Just truth. Malcolm's legacy began to rise from the ashes. Universities created archives in his name. Advocacy groups were funded in his honor. Artists painted murals on every coast, his face surrounded by flames and the words, "They can kill the messenger, but not the message." A street in his hometown was renamed Warner Way, and the folder he once titled Shadow Network, now taught in law schools as the case that changed Hollywood. But the most powerful moment came in the form of one final video, unreleased, untouched, saved in the second hard drive. Label: final.mp4. Pamela didn't watch it right away. She waited until the dust settled, until justice had begun. Then one night, she sat alone, lit a candle, and pressed play. Malcolm appeared, tired, but calm. His eyes weren't scared anymore. He smiled, just once. "Hey, Mom. If you're watching this, then I guess it's over. Or maybe it's just beginning." He paused, took a breath. "I didn't do this because I wanted to be a hero. I did it because someone had to. You always told me to speak when it matters most. Well, this matters." He looked straight into the lens. "They tried to drown me in silence. But I had you. And I knew you'd finish what I started." His voice cracked. "I love you, Mom. I'm sorry. But thank you for being the loudest voice I've ever known." The video ended. And Pamela? She didn't cry. She closed the laptop, kissed the letter, and whispered, "You were never erased. You were etched into history." Now, the world remembers Malcolm not just as a star, but as a symbol. A reminder that truth buried in silence can still rise and burn the world awake. Bill Cosby remains behind bars. But the bigger win wasn't the arrest. It was the shift, the awakening. The exposure of the system that allowed him and so many others to remain untouchable. That system cracked because of a son's bravery and a mother's refusal to let him be forgotten. This isn't the end. This is a warning to every predator hiding behind contracts, to every executive trading silence for profit, to every machine built on fear and cover-ups. Your time is up. The silence is broken. And the message is louder than ever. Because Malcolm didn't just leave behind a scandal. He left behind a map. And we're following it. If you made it this far, you already know this isn't just a story. This is a warning. A scream that rose from the grave. Malcolm Jamal Warner didn't die in silence. He died because of silence. Because he dared to speak. Because he had the courage to say what others only whispered. And now, Bill Cosby is behind bars. But do you really think this ends here? The system that killed Malcolm, the machine that paid for silence, erased evidence, and traded truth for contracts, it's still breathing. Still watching. Still waiting to bury the next voice that dares to speak. Unless we stop it. Unless we make sure this story isn't just remembered, but repeated, echoed, screamed. So don't scroll away. Speak his name. Type "Justice for Malcolm" in the comments. Share this video. Mirror it. Repost it. Let the silence know we hear the truth now. If this video disappears, you know why. But they can't erase all of us. Hit that like button if this broke you. Subscribe so you never miss the next truth they try to bury. And turn on notifications because what's coming next might be even darker than this. They thought they could kill the message.